There is a battle that most people fight every single day, yet very few ever recognize it. It is not a battle against the world. It is not a battle against difficult people, unexpected circumstances, or an uncertain future. It is a battle against reality itself. Every moment you insist that life should be different than it is, you create resistance. Every time you try to force an outcome, hold on to a relationship that is already slipping away, or demand certainty where none exists, you tighten the invisible chains around your own mind. Then you wonder why peace feels so distant. You wonder why your heart feels heavy even when nothing appears to be wrong. The answer is simpler than you imagine. Peace cannot enter a mind that is constantly trying to control everything. Look closely at your own life. How much of your energy is spent trying to change things that are beyond your reach? You replay conversations that have already ended. You imagine hundreds of possible futures that may never happen. You carry yesterday's mistakes into today, as if they are weights tied around your spirit. You seek approval from people whose opinions change like the wind. You hold tightly to expectations, believing that if everything unfolds exactly as you planned, only then will you finally feel calm. But life has never promised certainty. It has never agreed to follow your schedule. And yet, you continue negotiating with reality as though persistence alone can bend existence to your will. The greatest irony is this: the harder you hold on, the more life seems to slip through your fingers. Like trying to grasp water with a closed fist, the tighter your grip becomes, the less you are able to keep. But open your hand, and suddenly nothing needs to be forced. This is not giving up. This is not surrendering your dreams or abandoning your responsibilities. It is something far more powerful. It is the wisdom to recognize the difference between what belongs to your effort and what belongs to life itself. Imagine waking up without carrying the burden of proving yourself. Imagine facing uncertainty without fear consuming your thoughts. Imagine looking at change not as an enemy, but as a teacher. This kind of freedom is available, but it comes at a price that many people are unwilling to pay. The price is your attachment to control. Not because control is always bad, but because the illusion of complete control has become your prison. The strongest person is not the one who can dominate every situation. The strongest person is the one who remains steady when situations refuse to obey. Real strength is silent. It does not shout. It does not panic. It does not desperately cling to outcomes. It breathes, observes, adapts, and moves forward with clarity. This strength cannot be purchased, inherited, or borrowed from someone else. It is cultivated each time you choose peace over resistance, acceptance over frustration, and awareness over fear. Today, you are invited to explore a different way of living, a way where your happiness is no longer dependent on controlling every person, every event, or every result. A way where peace begins not because the world has become perfect, but because your relationship with the world has changed. The moment you stop trying to control everything, you may discover that life has been carrying you all along. And perhaps the greatest power you will ever possess is not the power to hold on, but the quiet courage to let go. Many people believe that their suffering comes from difficult people, unexpected failures, financial struggles, or uncertain circumstances. But if you observe carefully, you will notice something deeper. The greatest source of suffering is often not what happens to you. It is your constant attempt to make life obey your expectations. The mind develops an invisible habit of trying to control everything. It wants people to behave a certain way, events to unfold according to a carefully designed plan, the future to provide guarantees before taking the next step. When reality refuses to cooperate, frustration appears. Anxiety grows, peace disappears. Yet the problem is rarely reality itself. The problem is the belief that reality should have been different. From the moment you wake up, the mind begins creating expectations. You expect the day to go smoothly. You expect people to understand you. You expect your efforts to produce immediate results. These expectations seem harmless at first, but they quietly become conditions for your happiness. The moment one of them is broken, your emotional balance is shaken. Someone says something unexpected, a plan changes, traffic delays your journey, or a message you were waiting for never arrives. None of these events possess the power to destroy your peace on their own. What creates suffering is the resistance inside you that whispers, "This should not be happening." The illusion of control is powerful because it disguises itself as responsibility. It convinces you that if you think harder, worry longer, or prepare for every possible outcome, you can prevent pain from entering your life. But worry has never prevented tomorrow's problems. It has only stolen today's peace. Endless thinking cannot eliminate uncertainty because uncertainty is woven into the fabric of life itself. Every season changes. Every relationship evolves. Every human being grows older. Every success carries the possibility of failure, and every failure contains the possibility of growth. Trying to control this endless movement is like trying to stop the wind with your hands. Observe nature for a moment. A tree does not resist the changing seasons. It does not panic when autumn arrives and its leaves begin to fall. It understands without thought that letting go is part of remaining alive. The river does not argue with the rocks in its path. It flows around them with patience and quiet determination. The clouds do not cling to one place in the sky. They move because movement is their nature. Yet human beings often fight the very changes that make life possible. We hold on to identities that no longer serve us, relationships that have completed their purpose, and expectations that reality has already outgrown. This constant need for control also affects how we see other people. We try to shape them into versions that fit our desires. We want them to think as we think, speak as we speak, and make choices that match our expectations. When they do not, disappointment follows. But every person is living a journey shaped by experiences, fears, dreams, and lessons that we may never fully understand. Expecting complete control over another human being is not love. It is attachment disguised as care. True respect begins when you allow others the freedom to become who they are, even when it differs from what you hoped. The same pattern appears in your relationship with yourself. You may try to control every emotion, suppress every fear, or eliminate every uncomfortable thought. But emotions are visitors, not permanent residents. The more you resist sadness, anger, or disappointment, the stronger they become. They demand attention because they are fighting against rejection. When you simply acknowledge them, without becoming trapped inside them, they begin to lose their grip. Acceptance is not surrendering to emotion. It is refusing to create additional suffering through resistance. The illusion of control promises safety, but it delivers exhaustion. It convinces you that if you hold on tighter, everything will remain secure. Yet life continually teaches the opposite lesson. Jobs change. People leave. Opportunities appear unexpectedly. Plans collapse without warning. Health shifts. Time moves forward without asking permission. No amount of control can stop these realities. The wise person does not waste energy demanding certainty from an uncertain world. Instead, they strengthen the only place where true control exists: their own character, their own choices, and their own response to whatever life places before them. When this understanding begins to settle into your heart, the struggle against reality slowly dissolves, and the weight you have carried for so long starts to become lighter, not because life has changed, but because you are no longer asking it to become something it was never meant to be. Many people misunderstand the meaning of letting go. They imagine it is an act of surrender, reserved for those who have given up, lost hope, or accepted defeat. They believe that holding on is strength and releasing is weakness. But if you look closely at the lives of those who possess true inner peace, you will discover a different reality. The strongest individuals are not the ones who cling desperately to every outcome. They are the ones who know when to release what no longer serves them. Letting go is not the absence of courage. It is courage in its purest form. It requires you to face uncertainty without demanding guarantees. It asks you to trust your inner stability more than external circumstances. Think about how much energy is consumed by trying to hold together things that are already falling apart. A relationship that has lost its foundation, a career path that no longer reflects your purpose, an identity built around pleasing others, or a painful memory that has become part of your daily thinking. You continue carrying these burdens because you believe that if you let them go, you will lose a part of yourself. Yet what often disappears is not your identity, but the weight that has been preventing you from becoming who you truly are. The ego fears letting go because it mistakes familiarity for safety. Even when something causes pain, the mind often chooses the pain it already knows over the uncertainty it has never experienced. This is why people remain in unhealthy situations long after they recognize the damage. They fear the unknown more than the discomfort of the present. But growth has never existed inside the walls of comfort. Every meaningful transformation begins with releasing something that once felt essential. Acceptance is one of the greatest expressions of wisdom. It does not mean approving of everything that happens. It does not mean pretending that loss, disappointment, or failure do not hurt. Acceptance simply means recognizing reality without fighting against its existence. When rain begins to fall, arguing with the sky will not stop the storm. When someone chooses to leave your life, resisting their decision cannot restore what has already changed. Reality remains untouched by your resistance. The only thing resistance changes is your own peace of mind. This is why acceptance is strength. It requires you to stand before reality with open eyes instead of hiding behind denial. It asks you to acknowledge pain without allowing pain to define you. It teaches you that your worth is not determined by what stays in your life or what leaves it. Your value has always existed independently of your circumstances. Many people spend years trying to force life into a shape that matches their expectations. They push harder, worry more, and become increasingly frustrated when things refuse to unfold according to plan. They mistake relentless control for determination. But there is a profound difference between committed effort and desperate attachment. Effort says, I will give my best. Attachment says, my happiness depends entirely on this result. One creates growth. The other creates suffering. Imagine an archer preparing to release an arrow. The archer trains carefully, stands with focus, and aims with precision. Every action before releasing the arrow is within their control. But once the arrow leaves the bow, countless factors influence its path. The wind may change, the target may shift. The outcome is no longer completely theirs. Wisdom lies in giving your fullest effort while peacefully accepting whatever follows. This balance between action and acceptance is where true freedom begins. Letting go also transforms the way you relate to yourself. Many people carry guilt over mistakes made years ago. They replay old conversations, wishing they had spoken differently. They punish themselves for decisions made with the limited understanding they had at the time. But the person who made those mistakes no longer exists in exactly the same way. Every experience has changed you. Holding onto guilt after learning the lesson serves no purpose except prolonging suffering. Forgiveness is not pretending the mistake never happened. It is recognizing that your future deserves more attention than your past. Inner strength is often quiet. It does not seek recognition or applause. It appears in the moments when no one is watching. It is choosing patience instead of anger, compassion instead of resentment, and peace instead of endless conflict. It is walking away from what destroys your spirit even when your heart feels uncertain. It is admitting that you cannot control every outcome while remaining fully committed to living with integrity and purpose. The person who learns this discovers that peace is not found by conquering the world, but by no longer allowing the world to conquer the mind. And in that silent realization, wisdom begins to replace fear, clarity replaces resistance, and every step forward becomes lighter, because nothing unnecessary is being carried anymore. The human mind rarely lives where the body is. While your feet stand firmly on the ground, your thoughts are often wandering through memories that cannot be changed or futures that have not yet arrived. One moment you are replaying a conversation from years ago, wishing you had chosen different words. The next moment you are imagining countless possibilities about tomorrow, trying to predict every outcome before it happens. In this endless movement between the past and the future, the present moment is quietly forgotten. Yet the present is the only place where peace has ever existed. It cannot be found in yesterday, because yesterday is beyond your reach. It cannot be found in tomorrow, because tomorrow is still an idea. Peace lives only in the moment that is unfolding right now. Notice how much of your stress comes from events that are not actually happening in this very instant. Your mind creates stories about what might go wrong. It revisits painful experiences as though repeating them could somehow change the ending. These thoughts feel real because your emotions respond to them. But they are still only thoughts. The body reacts as if danger is present, even when you are sitting safely in a quiet room. This is the power of an undisciplined mind. It turns imagination into suffering and possibilities into fear. Reality itself is often much simpler than the stories you create about it. Right now, you are breathing. Right now, your heart continues its steady rhythm without asking for your attention. Right now, life is moving through you, but the mind refuses to stay here. It believes that if it keeps thinking, worrying, and planning, it will eventually arrive at complete certainty. The irony is that certainty never arrives. As soon as one concern disappears, another takes its place. The habit of worrying becomes stronger than the problems themselves. This is why learning to return to the present is one of the greatest acts of freedom. It is not about ignoring responsibilities or refusing to prepare for the future. Preparation has its place. Reflection has its value. The problem begins when preparation becomes obsession and reflection becomes endless regret. A wise person plans carefully, then returns to the present. They learn from the past, then release it. They understand that thinking is a useful tool, but a dangerous master. Imagine standing beside a flowing river. The water never stops moving. Every second, new water passes by. If you tried to hold onto a single handful forever, you would only exhaust yourself. Thoughts are much like that river. They arise, they pass, and they disappear. Peace is not created by stopping every thought. Peace comes from realizing that you do not have to chase every thought that enters your mind. You can watch them come and go without allowing them to carry you away. Many people spend years believing that peace will come after they solve every problem. They tell themselves, once I earn enough money, then I will relax. Once people appreciate me, then I will be happy. Once everything is finally under control, then I will experience peace. But life continues creating new challenges. There is always another goal, another responsibility, another uncertainty waiting around the corner. If peace depends on perfect circumstances, it will always remain out of reach. True peace begins when you stop postponing it. It begins when you realize that this breath is enough to return home to yourself. It begins when you notice the warmth of the sunlight, the sound of the wind, the rhythm of your own footsteps, and the quiet spaces between your thoughts. These ordinary moments are often overlooked because the mind is searching for extraordinary experiences. Yet life has always revealed its deepest wisdom through simple awareness. The present moment also teaches humility. It reminds you that life is constantly changing. Happiness comes and goes. Sadness comes and goes. Success arrives, then fades. Difficult seasons eventually pass. Even your strongest emotions are temporary visitors. When you fully experience the present, you stop identifying yourself with these passing states. You realize that you are not your fear, your anger, your disappointment, or even your success. You are the awareness that observes them all without becoming trapped inside them. As this understanding deepens, your relationship with time begins to change. You stop rushing through today in pursuit of tomorrow. You stop carrying yesterday like a heavy burden across your shoulders. Instead, you begin meeting each moment with openness rather than resistance. Challenges still appear, responsibilities remain, and uncertainty continues to exist, but they no longer steal your inner balance because your peace is no longer attached to what might happen next. It is rooted in the quiet recognition that this moment, exactly as it is the only place where life can truly be lived, the only place where clarity can be discovered, and the only place where the restless search for happiness finally comes to rest without needing anything more than complete awareness of what already exists here and now. Many people spend their entire lives believing that freedom comes from gaining more. More success, more recognition, more possessions, more certainty, more control. They dedicate themselves to chasing one achievement after another, convinced that the next accomplishment will finally bring lasting fulfillment. Yet, even after reaching their goals, they often discover that the feeling of satisfaction is temporary. Soon another desire appears, another expectation takes its place, and the cycle begins again. This is because the deepest form of freedom is not found in what you acquire. It is found in what you are willing to release. The moment you stop clinging to every expectation, every outcome, and every attachment, you create space for a peace that cannot be taken away. Surrender is one of the most misunderstood words in human life. Many associate it with failure, weakness, or giving up. They imagine that surrender means becoming passive, losing ambition, or accepting defeat. But true surrender has nothing to do with abandoning your responsibilities or your dreams. It means releasing the constant struggle against reality. It means recognizing that while you can control your actions, you cannot control every consequence. You can plant the seed, water it faithfully, and care for the soil, but you cannot command the exact moment the flower will bloom. Nature follows its own rhythm, and so does life. Think about how exhausting it is to carry expectations everywhere you go. You expect people to understand your intentions without explanation. You expect life to reward every effort immediately. You expect your plans to unfold exactly as you imagined them. Each expectation becomes another invisible burden resting on your shoulders. When reality fails to match the picture inside your mind, disappointment follows. Not because life has treated you unfairly, but because your attachment to a particular outcome has become stronger than your ability to accept what is. Freedom begins the moment you understand that expectations are not guarantees. They are simply preferences created by the mind. There is nothing wrong with having goals or dreams. They give direction and purpose. The suffering begins when your happiness becomes dependent upon achieving them exactly as you imagined. A person who is attached says, "I must have this outcome to be at peace." A person who has learned surrender says, "I will give everything I have, and I will accept whatever life teaches me through the result." This difference changes everything. It transforms failure into education instead of humiliation. It transforms rejection into redirection instead of personal defeat. It transforms uncertainty into possibility instead of fear. Every experience becomes valuable because your identity is no longer tied to success alone. You begin to see that life is not happening against you, but shaping you through every challenge you encounter. Imagine holding a handful of sand. If you squeeze it tightly, the grains slip through your fingers until very little remains. But if you hold your hand gently, the sand rests peacefully in your palm. Life works in much the same way. The tighter you cling to people, possessions, achievements, or expectations, the more fear you create. Fear of losing them, fear of change, fear of uncertainty. But when you learn to appreciate without possessing and to love without controlling, your relationships become lighter, your mind becomes calmer, and your heart becomes more open. Surrender also requires trust, not blind trust that everything will always work out exactly as you hope, but trust in your own ability to face whatever comes. Most people are not afraid of uncertainty itself. They are afraid that they will not be strong enough to handle it. Yet if you look back at your own life, you have already survived moments you once believed would break you. You adapted, you learned, you continued moving forward. Strength was never absent. It simply revealed itself when you stopped doubting your ability to endure. Every season of life invites you to release something. A child lets go of dependence to become independent. An adult lets go of old beliefs to gain wisdom. A tree releases its leaves so new ones can grow. Even your breath teaches this lesson. You cannot inhale again unless you first exhale. Holding on to the old prevents the arrival of the new. Letting go is not the end of something valuable. Often, it is the beginning of something far greater than your limited expectations could have imagined. When you stop trying to control every detail of your journey, you begin to notice opportunities that fear once concealed. You become more present, more compassionate, and more resilient because your energy is no longer consumed by resistance. Instead of fighting every wave, you learn how to move with the current while remaining grounded in your values. You discover that peace is not created by eliminating uncertainty, but by no longer allowing uncertainty to disturb the foundation of your inner world. And from that quiet foundation grows a freedom that no circumstance can imprison, no disappointment can destroy, and no unexpected change can ever take away. Life has always moved according to rhythms far greater than human understanding. The sun rises without asking for permission. The seasons change without consulting anyone's plans. Rivers continue flowing around obstacles, and trees continue growing, even after storms have stripped away their branches. Nature does not resist its own unfolding. It moves with quiet confidence adapting to every change while remaining true to its essence. Yet human beings often choose a different path. Instead of flowing with life, they struggle against it. They demand certainty where none exists, permanence in a world built upon change, and complete control over events that have never belonged entirely to them. In this struggle, they lose the very peace they are searching for. Trusting the flow of life does not mean believing that everything will always be easy. It does not promise that pain will disappear or that every chapter will end happily. Difficult moments are part of every meaningful journey. Loss, disappointment, failure, and uncertainty visit every human life without exception. Trust is not the belief that challenges will never come. Trust is the quiet confidence that whatever comes, you will meet it with wisdom, patience, and strength. It is choosing faith over fear, not because you know what will happen next, but because you know who you are becoming through every experience. Most people spend a great deal of time trying to predict the future. They imagine countless scenarios, hoping that enough preparation will protect them from every possible disappointment. While preparation is valuable, obsession with the future becomes a prison. The mind creates problems that do not yet exist and suffers from them as though they are already real. Hours, days, and even years are consumed by worries about events that may never happen. In doing so, the present moment quietly slips away. The irony is that the future you fear eventually arrives as the present, and when it does, you often discover that you are far more capable than your anxious mind had believed. There is a difference between living with intention and living with control. Intention provides direction. Control demands certainty. Intention allows flexibility. Control resists change. Intention says, "This is the path I choose." Control says, "Nothing must interfere with my plan." One creates resilience, while the other creates frustration. Life is not a straight road where every step unfolds exactly as expected. It is a winding path filled with unexpected turns, hidden lessons, and opportunities disguised as obstacles. Many of the greatest blessings in life arrive through doors you never intended to open. Think about moments in your own journey that once felt like failures. Perhaps a rejection forced you to discover a better opportunity. Perhaps the end of one relationship led you toward greater self-understanding. Perhaps losing something you valued revealed strengths you never knew you possessed. At the time, those moments seemed unfair or painful. Looking back, they became turning points. This is one of life's quiet mysteries. Meaning often becomes visible only after time has passed. While you are inside the storm, you cannot always understand its purpose. But when you emerge from it, you often realize that the storm was shaping your character rather than destroying it. Trust also requires humility. It reminds you that you do not need to have every answer today. The mind desperately wants certainty because certainty feels safe. It wants to know exactly how every decision will unfold before taking the first step. But growth has never followed complete certainty. Every meaningful achievement, every deep relationship, and every personal transformation begins with stepping into the unknown. Courage is not the absence of uncertainty. Courage is moving forward despite it. The flow of life asks you to participate fully without demanding guarantees. Give your best effort. Speak with honesty. Act with compassion. Continue learning. Continue growing. But release the belief that you can control every result. The fruits of your actions will appear in their own time. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, and sometimes in forms you never expected. Patience becomes easier when you stop measuring life only by immediate outcomes. When you trust life, you also become kinder to yourself. You stop believing that every setback is proof of failure. Instead, you begin asking different questions. Rather than asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you ask, "What is this experience teaching me?" This simple shift transforms suffering into wisdom. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to deepen your character instead of diminishing your confidence. The greatest freedom comes when you no longer see uncertainty as an enemy. You begin to recognize it as the space where growth, creativity, love, and transformation are born. You realize that life has never asked you to control every wave upon the ocean. It has only asked you to learn how to sail with balance, awareness, and trust. As this understanding settles into your heart, fear gradually loses its authority. Resistance gives way to acceptance, and each new day becomes less about forcing life to follow your plans and more about walking forward with quiet confidence, knowing that whatever awaits beyond the horizon will become another opportunity to strengthen your spirit, expand your wisdom, and discover that the path unfolding before you has been guiding you toward the person you were always meant to become